45 minutes of questions, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A from the audience. So tune in, listen to what they're saying, and if there's any questions, save it to the end, and we'll call on you and get some answers. So I'm going to do it in no particular order, so I'll just go through. We'll kick it off with Lisel. So Lisel, as the CEO of the cannabis team and Cannabis Temp, your team is working with leading companies all throughout the US and now globally. Is there a shift happening within these businesses in their hiring process when it comes to building diverse teams and bringing more women into leadership roles?
Yes, absolutely. I think we're seeing a really conscious shift, in the industry for companies to hire more women and diverse, talent as well. So I'm very encouraged by that. We're working on a number of really large searches right now for C-suite positions, and I can say without exception, a lot of those companies have said that we prefer to have someone that's a woman or someone from a diverse background. So I think the conscious effort is really there. But I think it's really important for companies to know how important it is to have women, in leadership positions. I think if you look at the population that's consuming cannabis and who's purchasing legal cannabis, the majority of those people now are becoming women, especially the Gen Z generation, right? So it's important for companies to have talent that recognize where they need to put their money on branding, and what products they need to develop in order to really serve the whole consumer base. So that alone, I think, is a great reason for companies to start shifting and adding more women to the leadership.
Let's go over to Kelly. So as a lawyer, you've worked with all different clients. For those in this room who are looking to get a job in cannabis, what are 3 things they should look into about a company before signing a contract?
That's a good question, Adelia. I would say this industry is very large, but it is very, very small. Everybody knows everybody. So my first tip would be to ask around, check the reputation, check the internet, Google, social media. Also, if you go to the facility, if you are able to, even during an interview, instead of meeting at a coffee house, try and meet at the facility. And then also, once they give you whatever paperwork that you're supposed to sign, read it. Read it. Make sure it has everything that you think you're supposed to be getting. All your benefits, your job description, check the company names of who's employing you and who you're working for. Because this industry has a lot of companies involved. So those would be my 3 tips.
That's great advice. Tiana, so with Queen Mary, it's a licensed brand in California. What are 3 pieces of advice you wish you knew before building a licensed cannabis company?
Wow, that's a great question. Especially being the fact that most of us here in cannabis, it's the Wild West out here, so policies often changing, compliance is always changing, laws, people, everything. So one of the first things I think I wish I knew coming in was where to go, who to talk to, like consulting with people. If you are starting a cannabis business, you definitely need to go to a law firm or, to someone, a consulting agency and find out where to begin, who do you start with, if you're a grower, if you're legacy, how to get over. So compliance is really a big thing, and I wish I knew more about that because, you have a lot of label changes and a lot of things that happen. We've lost some money and made some, we learn along the way, right? you learn from your mistakes. So that's a big thing, where to start and who to begin with. And building a network, that is so important. Secondly, you need to, for me, my manufacturers is a woman-owned business. My distributors are women-owned businesses. I work mostly with women, which I think is great because we just do things a little differently. We're a little more noteworthy. You can kind of take us on our word a little more. It's a little less grimy. There's a lot of people in this industry that are here for the money, and they're here. It's called the green rush, right? Or the cannabis green rush. And so you have to be really careful on who you associate with and who you choose to be part of your network, because it can be the jungle out there. And lastly, I think the biggest thing, my biggest advice, not that I really knew, is that you have to come into this wholehearted. You have to love what you do. You have to love the plant. If you are here just for money, we've watched a lot of brands start, in businesses that come in and they disappear and they dissipate, and it's because they're not doing things right. They're not doing it, with effort. They say when you find something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And people will say, my whole life has changed in the last year since we've launched. I'm never home. I'm working all the time. I put in 90-hour weeks. So this isn't for the lighthearted. It's a lot of hard work. But the truth is, I'm happy every day. I get up with a smile on my face. I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be on the stage. I literally this week have been to Phoenix and back to Santa Ana the other night, and I'm here today. I haven't even been home in more than an hour and a half to switch out my clothes. I keep my suitcase packed most of the time, and that is a big thing you have to know. So if you have a brand or a business, you got to be on the road. You have to be in front of your brand. You can't just stick it in stores and expect it to sell itself. You have to do the work. You have to show up at events like this. You have to be a part of the community, and you really just have to communicate. And those are the biggest advices and things that I learned along the way that will help you in this cannabis industry.
Those are some great advice. I think all of us also notate that it's like dog years in the industry. We feel like we've been in it forever. The next question is going to be for Jackie. So as a journalist in cannabis, you have been able to hear from all different perspectives, learn about all different businesses. You've seen the good and the bad within the industry. What are 4 key takeaways you would like to share with a newcomer in the industry?
It's a good question. It's a loaded question. My first one, and I don't mean to sound like a bummer, but have a backup plan. This is a fleeting industry, and a lot of things come and go. We're already on our 5th green rush, right? And that too will come and go, which is a good thing. This too shall pass in a way. Things that are bad as well. But have a backup plan. Kind of know your exit strategy, or know what your next strategy is, or target where you think you might want to go, because companies do come and go quickly, and initiatives do as well, and things shift really quickly, so you should be nimble. And with that, I think another point I would make is to nurture different expertises. Become multifaceted, know different aspects. Don't just be a marketing person, learn another skill too. And that way you can kind of get in where you fit in. And the more skills that you have, and the more knowledge and education that you have, you'll be more prepared to do that. I think another thing I would say is that you should keep it pro as much as you can. This is fun, but it's also work. And having been a reporter on many beats throughout the years, some of which are fun beats that include, drugs and alcohol. I was a wine reporter for many years. You can get into situations that it can become very social and just fun, and you need to keep your wits about you, especially if you're a woman. And that can happen at big conferences, after parties. Just remember, you're here for work, and you can have fun too, but people are going to try and take advantage of that fact, and so you kind of need to have your wits about you, even as a woman, which, again, I know sounds like kind of a bummer, but I've seen some pretty, I think we all have, I think we've seen some pretty heavy stuff. I think also, maybe less so with this crowd, but you should also be prepared for people on the outside not to get it. We are inundated with cannabis all day, every day as we live it, we love it, but not everybody does, and not everybody's there yet, maybe people even in your own lives. And so now that this is professionalizing this industry and it's out in the open more, there are going to be, people with conflicting opinions, and if you really love this and you want to be here, you should be prepared for people in your life and in the general public to maybe not get it, and you can remember that it's them, not you. I think that's another really important thing. I also think that for women specifically, you should be prepared for some men in the industry not to get it. These were not always very women-oriented spaces. There weren't always a lot of women around, and to be perfectly honest, there are a lot of men who are just not used to that yet. And they may be used to you being there, they may not be used to you speaking, they may not be used to you taking authority. I've definitely experienced that firsthand, especially when I've had to question people and interview people who, may not have been doing good things for their company or by their shareholders or by their employees or what have you. They don't like when you start asking questions. And sometimes when you're a woman, they really don't like that either. So just steel yourself for that and prepare yourself for that, because it's an issue in any industry, but in an industry that's kind of coming out of a subculture and again professionalizing, you're gonna hit some of those speed bumps.